My fellow old rollers, welcome to the show. The one and only Kent Peters, the zombie from ZombieProof Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in
What's up, guys?
Sydney, Nova Scotia, not Sydney, Australia.
No.
He told me that just recently, we were talking before the show, that it was 15 degrees there today, and that's in centigrade, which I think is like 44 in real temperature.
See, but real temperature isn't like the whole world in Celsius, and only United States was like, fuck you guys, we're keeping our own measuring.
Haven't you ever read that book, The Majority is Always Wrong?
No, but that's perfect.
Yeah. That's how we roll in America. We just do shit the way we want to do it, and then you all kiss our asses.
I'm becoming American right now, man.
Well, I'm really excited to have you on the show. What is your age, by the way? Because I think you might be the youngest person we've interviewed for the Old Rollers podcast.
Hey, nice. I'm 37.
Okay, so 37. So you're almost an old roller. Like we're kind of going with 40 is like the beginnings of that.
If it makes you feel any better, I have 3 bulging discs, partially torn meniscus, massive sciatica on both sides, degenerative discs in my neck. So my body's pretty old.
Yeah, you got a pretty fucked up face too. So
thanks, man. It's the I like you.
Yeah, I like you too, zombie. You're my kind of feller. That's actually part of the reason for the interview. I listened to your let's see, was it Grappling Central podcast interview recently?
Yeah.
And I've followed you for a long time, actually, a lot of your breakdowns and stuff like that.
Thank you.
So I've actually been a big fan for a long time, but when I heard you in that podcast, you were just really funny and fun. And I thought, like this has been really serious. We've interviewed physical therapists. We're getting a couple of nutritionists coming. Like, this is, nice. It's been pretty serious up to this point. So I thought maybe a little bit of levity and, just like a little bit of a good time, because guess what? That's part of jiu-jitsu too.
100%. I try to be funny. I mean, I don't know if I actually am. It's a fine line with people laughing at you and people laughing with you. And I don't really care what side of the line I'm on.
It is what it is. You kind of got to accept it. In honor of this show, I'm actually wearing my signature series Come and Go rash guard.
Fuck. Is that a real store? It can't be.
It is. It's in Iowa. There's a string of gas stations. There's like 30 of them. And they don't sell any gas. They mostly just sell these fucking T-shirts.
Dude, we have a place like that. They sell chicken, and it's called A&K Lick-A-Chick. And people drive from all over to get this. Like, they just sell fucking like T-shirts and hats and shit more than they sell chicken, I'm sure.
I got to get one of those. That reminds me of this. Okay, so I live pretty close to a lake here in Kentucky. It's called Lake Cumberland. And it's like the biggest lake in the world, maybe with the exception of like Havasu in Arizona for houseboats.
Yeah.
There's a lot of houseboat manufacturers. And so we were down there. I was down there with my kids, and there was this boat. And on the back of it, it just said liquor box, but it was like, liquor, like, booze.
Yeah.
And I just sat looking at it for a minute, and then I was like,
I get it. I get it now. I get it.
Pretty sly.
Yeah. See, I'm on the ocean, so like our lake is fucking massive. Like I'm actually on an island. It's weird because we're part of Nova Scotia, but where we are, it's Cape Breton. It's the small island at the top of it. So we call ourselves Cape Bretoners. Like we take absolutely no pride in being Nova Scotians. It's a weird little dynamic, but we call ourselves Cape Bretoners. So we're completely covered in the Atlantic Ocean. So I got the beach like literally right out the window there. It's pretty cool.
That's pretty ballin'. Does it ever get warm enough to swim out there?
Yeah, like 1 month of 12.
Nice.
Yeah, like by August. See, June and July, it's nice enough to go to the beach, but the water's too cold. Mm-hmm. So then by August, the water's warm enough to get in. And then after August, it's just a fucking shit show. Goes back to winter.
Then the sharks come.
Yeah, well, we get winter, we get second winter, we get summer, then we get pre-winter, and then we get winter again.
Yeah, I got a really good friend that lives in Michigan, and he was saying we get fall, then we get winter, and then we get linter. I'm like, what the fuck is linter? He's like, that's later winter.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. So to kind of some things that I was interested in from you, on the old rollers perspective, to give you the breakdown of what was the impetus behind starting this podcast. It's completely selfish. And anybody that's watched several of the episodes, I usually tell all my guests this because I want them to understand, what we're doing. But if you've listened, you're probably tired of hearing it. I am coming up on my 40th birthday, June 1st. And
Nice.
so I don't feel old. Still feel pretty spry and all that. But, I was never
If you use the word spry, you're old. I'm just saying.
Yeah, say armbar, you prick.
Nice. Armbar. I know.
I'm just gonna set an alarm about every 10 minutes. I'm gonna ask you about an armbar.
Oh yeah. No, I got a few gems.
Yeah, that's my favorite. But I want to listen to and learn from people who have more experience than me. My grappling journey is actually pretty small. I've been doing it about 5 years.
Nice.
Right before we got to the kind of lockdown stuff, I was awarded my purple belt in Jiu-Jitsu.
Congratulations, bro.
Super proud of. I did not think that was probably in the cards for me, especially at first. I was like, probably going to have to quit because I was having a hard time, like, not getting injured and stuff, But
I fucking know.
Gotten through that and feel, pretty good about things. And so I want to roll into my 65th birthday dangerously. And I want to be as good as possible for as long as possible. And so learning from people and like we're stuck in this kind of COVID. So for those, who hopefully soon will be listening to this and this will all be over. Like I'm now in my 6.5 week of not being able to train at all. And
you're not doing any prohibition training?
None on the books. So but
we'll just glaze over that question.
Yeah. There's been none of that. I've been a pretty good boy. My daughter trains, so
nice.
she's 15. So we actually drill, whenever I have her, because she was with a previous relationship. But when she's at the house, we do some jiu-jitsu. Unfortunately, like I screwed up and I got too excited and I just kind of beat the brakes off of her once. And so she's not as motivated to train with me anymore. And I apologized to her, but it was my mistake. I just, I had that like raging bull, like haven't trained in long and got to get after it. And I didn't even realize what I was doing until it was too late. And I was like, oh crap, Harrison, you just ruined your training partner. So it's a shame, like that being said, one of the elements of the old rollers kind of lifestyle, if that could, be a thing, is adaptation. Learning to work with the changes, learning to work within the changes that come with aging. Obviously, you've had some injuries. We just discussed those. But I also know just from, being a fan of yours that when you started jiu-jitsu, your beginning was literally adaptive. And I don't mean like physically. I mean that you had to create a jiu-jitsu community because you live in a small area and there wasn't one. And if you wanted one, you were going to have to just make it happen. So I kind of wanted to hear from you, like, what got you interested in starting? And then once you did, how did you go about building that community? Because I know it wasn't easy, and I think there's lessons to be learned from it.
Yeah. Well, I was lucky where, like, when I started, I went to a traditional jiu-jitsu club, and that was a fucking shit show. I learned a whole bunch of wrist locks, and then I realized it was fucking bullshit. But I joined a judo club, and I lucked out where my judo instructor, he loved the groundwork. So I would be shooting. It was before double legs were illegal in judo.
Yeah.
So I'd be shooting double legs and going to mount, and he would just fucking encourage it, man. He never got mad at me like some judo instructors do. So I was really lucky with that. And he just kept, if you want to keep rolling, like stay at the end of class or come a little early, you and one of your friends can go over on the side of the mats. He was great. His name was Brian. Well, his name is Brian DeGoss, and he gave me my black belt in judo after many fucking years. But
that's balling.
Well, it was all we had around here, right? So I was really lucky because he's a great coach. So just watching him teach and watching how passionate he was. So passion was one of the big things that I took from him into when I started my own club. He let me do summer classes. So in the summer, they closed down the club, and he was like, Kent, man, listen, I know you love grappling. I'll give you a key. I'll give you the code, because judo's all like, you don't make money on judo, right? It's all non-for-profit fucking shit. So he was like, I'll give you a key, I'll give you the code, and you can run grappling classes in the club all summer long. So I just, like, hey, free classes. I had like 30 people on the mat, and I was only, well, as a nothing belt. Everything I knew was from watching DVDs and videos, and like Marcelo Garcia's stuff and Eduardo Tellis Turtle DVD. So I started very, you know, how do you say it? Like rough. I'd see a technique done on a DVD, but it wasn't live, so it wasn't how it would look real rolling. You know what I mean? Like, because anytime you take a perfect technique and then you add someone who's fighting against you, it bastardizes the technique a little bit, right? It's very rare that you see like a perfect technique, and that's why we celebrate perfect techniques in the sport, right? Because when you have someone resisting you, it makes it difficult. So I had all of these DVD techniques in my head, and then I'd be teaching people, and it was hard to get people to want to learn from me, but I knew a little more than everyone else. So I had this little following, and I was just a white belt teaching, and I made sure everybody knew, like, we're all wearing white belts. We wore our gis. I ordered a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gi and a Keiko Hasa white belt, and I wore it with fucking pride teaching this little grappling class, right? And then I knew I couldn't charge money. And that was my biggest thing. Like, I was a welding inspector by trade. So in Cape Breton here, there's no fucking welding. There's no new construction. There's no nothing. So I couldn't live here. And I knew I needed something to live here. And I wanted to charge money for jujitsu. I figured that I could make a living off it because I also enjoy sales. I enjoy, the whole aspect that comes with a business owner. So I was working out west as a welding inspector, and I started walking 30 minutes to go to the class up there. It was a Gracie Baja, and I ended up getting my blue belt up there in 3 months. So, I mean, and people don't trust that whole 3 month thing because it's like a 1 year minimum requirement. But I was already a judo green belt. I was already rolling fucking nonstop at home. So when I went up there in the 3 months, I was tapping out blue belts. So Mike King, the instructor there, gave me my blue belt. So when I moved home, I started ZombieProof in my wife's garage, well, mine in the wife's garage. And I just bought a bunch of mats with some money I made while I was working, and I just fucking made it up as I went along, man.
So when we talk about that, your earliest curriculum was based out of DVDs,
Yep.
and you have also made a lot of interviews and videos talking about that was a way that you learned.
Yep.
And a lot of us are pretty fortunate in that we have really good coaching. But I can say from my own experience, my coach was really, really good, but I was so bad at learning that I couldn't get what he was saying in one pass. I actually just had a conversation with him about this. So I would ask him, hey, Mike, what are you teaching this week? And then I would go either to some sort of an instructional or like Sensei YouTube and search that thing and try to watch like at least 50 different versions of it.
That's smart.
To try and find, commonalities. What are the things that everybody says? And then, so I would just, I would not be searching for like, flying Barado Platas or something. It would be like,
that's what I was searching for. Armburs.
Yeah, looking for armburs.
I could do a flying armbar before I could do a mount escape.
I don't see the problem with that. You start standing.
Fuck it. Yeah. Never bothered me at all.
So for me, even with having good coaching, because I have what seems to be a learning disability, learning from instructionals is something that was a necessary part of my training. And so I kind of wanted to get from you, because you've had some very innovative methods of how to get the most out of instructional. So I actually have learned a lot from how you have explained your learning. Like I switched up some of the things that I do. So I want you to
Nice.
share that with, my fellow old rollers, but also like just a refresher course for me to make
Yep.
sure I'm tightening up my instructional game.
Perfect, man. Like some of the things I do with instructionals, I try to get as creative as possible. So I take notes on everything. I oh no, I should have brought it home. I don't have my notebook here, but even when I was making up my classes, like I have every class that I was going to teach written down, even when I was a white belt. Like I'm going to do this warm up and then I'm going to follow it with this warm up and then we're going to do this technique. And there was a lot of trial and error learning how much a student could learn in one class, like
Hmm.
5 techniques is way too much. One technique isn't enough. You got to find the sweet spot. You got to know how long the warm ups need to be. But as far as the instructionals, one of my favorite things, like I like starting at the very first technique. And like, let's say you got a DVD of arm drags, Marcelo Garcia's arm drags. Watch just the first technique 50 times, right? And when you watch it, watch just his head, then watch just his shoulders, then
Hmm.
watch just his elbows, then watch just his wrists, then just his hips, then just his knees, then just his ankles, just his toes. What's he doing to make this work and why is it working? Because we take for granted a lot of techniques that we do and we don't know why is this working, right? We put our hand here because we're told to, but why is this working? And the beautiful thing about jiu-jitsu, as I've grown up in the belts, the higher up I get, the more I'm exploring the individual movements of why I did what, right? And I find that's something that if you dive into at the beginning, that quest for knowledge, right? Like the more you can learn about why he grabs where in that arm drag, the more high the percentage of you hitting that arm drag is going to be. So I take just the first technique and I watch it until I can go out and film myself doing it on a student and look identical to Marcelo Garcia doing it. And that's a bold statement because he's the fucking GOAT, right?
Hmm.
So when I can make myself look exactly like he does, so I'll stand in the same frame of however they're taking the video, and I'll get my boy Steve to video it, and I'm going to look exactly how he looks. And I'm asking myself, why is my foot here? Why is my knee here? Am I generating power off my heel? Is there weight in this foot? He looks
Mm.
like he has weight in this foot. Do I have weight in this foot? Because if I can master that first technique, then everything else on that DVD is going to be a fucking cinch, right? And most of the time with DVD progression, it's an A, B, C, D, E, F, G situation where you teach the first technique. That might be the only thing I need to know for the next 6 months in my club. Because if I can go in with that Marcelo Garcia arm drag and I can hit every one of my students and every one of my training partners and every one of the guys that are better than me in my club, and I can hit them all with it and get their back, well, I don't fucking need B, do I? Right? When will I need B? When they start doing the first natural response. And if you watch a DVD correctly, it's always going, well, if it's done well, because a lot of guys, the best guys in the world, they're doing DVDs and each next move is a response, right? So if you watch a DVD and you watch technique 3 and you're like, that's the one I like, well, you might never get there because you didn't generate the 2 responses prior, right? So if you master that first technique, you don't really have to watch the rest of the DVD until one of your training partners fucks you. And then you're like, what did he just do? Now put on part 2 and be like, oh, that motherfucker put his hand right there. And that's what that motherfucker was supposed to do. That's evolution, right? That's the evolution of jiu-jitsu. And it's actually kind of cool to see that that will tell you that you did that first technique correctly because Marcelo Garcia already made a DVD about the second fucking thing. Do you know what I mean?
I
So
do.
that's
Yeah.
that's one of the biggest things that like if you can do that, that's time consuming as fuck. But if you can do that, you're truly mastering DVD learning. Right? Instead of watching the whole thing and trying to digest a bit of it, every time you go to a seminar, you get what, 100%? Fuck no. You're lucky
Hmm.
if you've digested 2% of the whole fucking seminar. But if you study the first technique, or if you spent a whole seminar on one technique and why you put your hand here, you'd be bored to fucking death, but my fuck, you'd be good at that. Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
You'd be a lot closer to mastery at the end of that, 3 hours versus.
Exactly, right? So that's one of the biggest things I do with DVDs. Like, not just the study in just the first part, but pay close attention to what I'm saying. Like, watch the shoulders, watch the wrists, watch the feet. Because I was really guilty of that at the beginning, where when I was doing breakdowns, I've missed details, right? Like, one breakdown I did, I didn't have my feet crossed correctly, and someone called me out on it. And I love being called out on shit because I find you learn a lot when someone calls you out maliciously. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's very rare that someone's going to be like, hey, man, I really like your stuff. Thank you for that. But I just wanted to let you know that you missed one teeny tiny
There was
little
this one
detail.
little thing.
It's never going to fucking happen. But when I come out there with my dick out and I'm like, yeah, you know, here's the technique. And they're like, no, motherfucker, you didn't cross your feet. I listen. Like, I don't take any of that hate serious because honestly, I don't give a fuck about what most of these people think, right? But if he's teaching me, because this really happened, and I learned the Cummings butterfly from this exact story. Somebody told me to watch where my ankles were, and now when I go to 411, I can actually come up in combat base because this prick shit on my technique. So that prick ended up being one of my favorite teachers because I use that all the time. So like, I don't know who that guy is. It was completely anonymous, but I'm thankful. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm very good with constructive criticism or even malicious criticism as long as it's something that I can take and learn from. Because like I said, man, I don't give a fuck about these people. Like most of the time, if somebody's online saying mean shit, they got a rough life. So like, I'll give them a hug if they want, but I'm not going to give them any bullshit back. Except sometimes. Sometimes I'll play, but not often.
Yeah, I think the internet, it has done so much for us, but it's also exposed so much about us. And you know, like to speak within this example or this conversation, like your technique breakdowns, one of the things that you talked about was within the 411 position, the way Oliver Taza uses his feet and does like that taint stomp that you call the Taza foot.
The Taza foot, yeah.
Yeah. So I used that and took it from you. And
Nice.
I was like, my buddy the zombie calls this the Taza foot, but I call it the taint stomp because.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I don't care what people call any of it. I just call it what I call it. So when I yell it out in a tournament, my students are like, okay.
Yeah.
Like I got this one, like if you're on someone's back, I don't say backpack. I say romantic head. And you got to get your head real tight to the person that you're on their back so you look like you're taking a romantic picture. And people will look at me all strange and shit, but it's the first thing that came to my mind when I seen the position. I call it whatever the fuck I want. Like I get a kick out of some people, they'll say Taza foot. Like I made that up. I did. Taza came, did a seminar, and I called it Taza foot. So when I see people that like aren't following me or they're not subscribed to my YouTube and they're like, yeah, the Taza foot, and I'm like, I made that shit up, motherfucker.
Yeah.
You don't
That's
have
a
to
quarter.
like me.
It's gonna
But
cost
yeah,
you a quarter.
that's my shit. Or the Hayden hook. Like I seen
Yeah.
Jason Hayden do it. He grabbed the dude's foot. Jason Hayden's a little killer. I named it the Hayden hook. So anybody who calls it the Hayden hook, the Nicky Ryan entry, I call it just the Nicky Ryan. The Freakazoid entry, like I just named it because Freakazoid did it to Ricky Luley and EBI. Like I just call shit whatever the fuck it is when I see it, right?
Right.
And I hear people saying my terminology, and I always find it funny because a lot of people that are saying my shit don't follow me. And I'm like, guys, listen, I may not be a world champion or anything, but like, fuck, give me some credit. I'm a decent coach.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna pick on you and say that I disagree, but
that's all right. That's all right.
But I'm a YouTube anonymous comment hater.
That's cool, man. That's cool. I've won one anonymous battle. Did you ever hear the story?
I don't even know how you win one, so I need to hear this just because I thought this was not possible.
It is. It was on Reddit, and it was fucking glorious. So I was on Reddit, and I posted one of my videos, and some guy commented, like, that shit wouldn't even work on one of my blue belts. And I was like, cool. Like, I don't really care. And he just kept commenting. I'm talking like 4 or 5 comments. So I don't remember what I said to him to carry on the conversation, but I said something like, you don't like me at all, eh? And he was like, it's not that I don't like you. It's that I don't like the fact that you're teaching shit that can get people submitted. And like, I'm going to break from this for a second. I don't teach so Gordon Ryan can go out and submit Craig Jones. Neither of those awesome fuckers are watching my shit. I teach so Paul the Barber can sub Steve the Accountant on a Tuesday night. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
So this guy can eat my ass, first of all. But then what I did was I was like, okay, I'll bite, right? I'm gonna Gordon Ryan this motherfucker. So I went into all of his past posts and I just started reading. I just wanted to see a name. because I'm Magnum fucking PI. Like, I'm showing my age. So I found one name. He's like, I competed against Sebastian Broche in a dream tournament. So I went and I looked up the dream tournament, and Sebastian Broche, he's the yoga for BJJ guy. Dude's an awesome competitor. So I looked it up and I found he had 3 matches. So I went through and I found all 3 of the people's names, and then I went to their Facebook profiles and I searched all 3 for profiles, and then I went to their fucking Instagram and I searched all 3, and just I narrowed it down. I guessed who it was, and we were talking, and I was like, I'm sure we would be friends in the real world, or in the real world, Richard. And he deleted all his comments.
Oh,
Fuck 'em.
jeez. You
I thought it was fantastic.
You doxed the Redditor.
That's what I'm saying. I won an argument on Reddit. I didn't know it was possible either, but I fucking did it.
Well, that's black belt level shit right there. Like, you probably should get a coral belt for it.
That's what I'm saying, right? I can barely figure out how to turn my computer on, but I can fuck people up on Reddit.
Yeah, the computer was a hard one. I live, out in the country. Nice. And a really good friend of mine, he had an uncle that I shouldn't tell that story. Anyway, that he couldn't find porn. And so he had to ask me, he was like, how do I find porn? He's like, I can't help you with that.
That's like a Facebook post. How do I find porn? This isn't an inbox, bro.
Yeah, that was a boomer post, wasn't it?
Yep.
Well, now that we've completely devolved and we've talked about, dealing with haters and how to find porn on the internet, one of the things that I also really enjoy from your channel is that it's very clear, just given all the different students who are willing to take part and be your uke for your videos, like, when you do breakdowns and stuff, that you have a pretty positive culture that you've probably worked pretty hard to cultivate and maintain.
Yes and no. I'm just a fucking nut. Like, I'm very upfront about what I want from you as a student. Like, I make sure that nobody feels any kind of bullying, but at the same time, I come off as a bully, but in a good way. Like, if you smell bad, motherfucker, I'm going to tell you smell bad. Not because I want to hurt your feelings, but because you could give me staff. You know what I mean? So our school is so clean. I pay a cleaner. She comes in every morning. She cleans everything off. She wipes the bags down, wipes the balls down, cleans the mat fully, cleans the bathroom. She's retired military, so every day she comes in and does that for me. Her kid trains with me, so she wants it extra clean. And like, I've been paying since before I could really afford to pay, because I want the place to be as clean as possible. My club is the cleanest club I've ever been in, right? So that's part of the culture. If you smell bad, my students will tell you, right? I bred that culture. I want my students to be like, bro, your rash guard stinks. Go home and vinegar that bitch. We're very open about the different types of skin diseases that you can get in jiu-jitsu. We want you to look it up. I'll tell you on your first day, go look up impetigo, go look up staph, go look up ringworm, because if you ever see that shit on your skin, you fucking tell me, and we'll find out what happened. And it's usually the clean people that get the diseases, because they don't got enough of their own fucking funk on them to fight it off, right? But then little things like, I don't allow inside jokes. There's no inside jokes in my club. Because if you have an inside joke, then that means people are on the outside. So there's no cliques. Like, I make sure people don't always pair up with the same teammates. I'll switch them up all the time. I don't have that little group drilling in the corner. Like, it's always very broad. And that's part of what I like about it. And I make sure everybody knows that and everybody understands, right? I'm very straightforward, and I always try to cut things off right away if I see something that I don't like happening, because I don't need your fucking money. Even during this, like, fucking dying broke because the government's a bunch of pieces of shit and they shut everything down, and I'd still kick somebody out for being a piece of shit. Like, you're not going to survive in my club. I want only people who respect other people, want to be friends. Safety's a big thing with me. If you crank a submission, I will kick you the fuck out so fast, and that's for anyone. And like, accidents happen. When I'm rolling with some of my best guys, we move so fast. Sometimes it's easy to get hurt, but sure, my guys all know, like, safety is paramount. And if you hurt me, you will fucking pay. Right? And I don't mean like I'll beat you up. I mean, you'll have to find a new fucking place to train. and I'll make sure I call that coach and tell him that you're dangerous on the mat, right? So it's just the way I wanted it was exactly what I got because I was very upfront about how I wanted everything, you know. And it's my club, it's my culture. I want everybody in there to be smiling and happy, and I mean that's what I got, and I fucking love it.
Yeah. So you're leading very much from the front on that, you know, and you're having the difficult conversations on behalf of your students.
And you have to have them right away, and you have to let your students hear them, because it can't be oh, I'll take that person aside. Oh, they made a sexist joke. Oh, I'll take that person aside. No. Hey, don't talk about her fucking period on the mat. It's not her time of the month. Shut your fucking mouth. Conversation's done. He'll either quit or he'll be like, I was wrong. You know? Because I actually had that conversation before. Some fucking dude said, oh, it must be your time of the month. And I was like, no, hey, shut your fucking mouth. You know? And it's either done or he's insulted and he leaves. But I mean, if he stayed and said that 3 more times and 5 girls left,
right?
You know, it's just half of it's about morals, and the other half really is finances. Because if you can't afford to pay the rent and keep the place open, then everyone who needs you, they're not going to get you, right? Like, one thing that I'm learning because of this COVID bullshit is ZombieProof is a mental health facility.
Oh,
I'm getting messages from my students every fucking day. We should be open instead of McDonald's, because I got students who are getting dark, bro. You know, they need this fucking thing. And I'm willing to start letting people train illegally because fuck the government. We and listen, let me preface that because I don't want people thinking I'm a grandmother killer. We have in our entire province, there's only been 56 deaths, and 50 of them were in the exact same long-term healthcare facility. And a long-term healthcare facility is where people go when they're 70 plus and they're going to die.
And
they have illnesses already. So 50 of the 56 deaths in our entire province have all been in one building. So that means in our big province, only 6 people have died and they were all still old. You know, so all the evidence is saying like kids aren't really getting it, healthy adults aren't really getting it. Most people that are dying, and even today the CDC backtracked. I'm not a conspiracy guy. I don't go into conspiracies, but the CDC backtracked today and said that the coronavirus doesn't even spread as easily on surfaces as they once thought. So if the CDC is already backtracking, that means that multiple businesses, almost myself included, are being bankrupted because people don't want to admit that they were wrong, right? Like, just let me go back out in public. A mask isn't going to help you. Let me go back and run my club and do temperature checks or whatever the fuck make you think, you know, like I'm at the end where I'm ready to just go training. I want to start going hugging people. I'm willing to hug strangers. I want to invade people's space. I think this is the dumbest fucking accident that has ever happened. And maybe I'm just talking because in my area, cases are very low. Maybe if I was in New York, it would be different. But I don't even know anybody who's affected. I don't know anybody who knows anybody who's affected.
Well, I think what you're saying there is also topical, is the idea that there are geographical barriers, and living on a small island, there's not a lot of travel.
But the rest of it is attached to the mainland, and even that's where we're still not getting many cases. The whole province, right? So it's not just the island factor. It's even in the Maritimes, like Canada itself, like even these big places where you think there's going to be lots, like Halifax is close to getting an NHL team, and they've only had 6 deaths outside of that long-term healthcare facility. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
oh, I do.
It's such a bullshit situation at this point that the government should just be like, Kent, man, open back up. Because I'm already being spiteful because these fuckers have fucked me over for a few months. I'm not paying my taxes this year. Trudeau could suck my dick.
Okay, we'll delete that from the playback.
No, it's fine. Am I not allowed saying suck my dick or the
the tax part? I don't want to contribute to you getting in any kind of trouble.
No, they can go fuck themselves too. The collection agents, they can straight up go fuck themselves. I hope they're listening.
Oh, Zombie, you're having a good time today, and we're having a good time too. But what you said about jiu-jitsu is your facility is a mental health facility.
100%.
I saw this in myself about 2 weeks into the shutdown. I started getting real weird, real pissy, cranky, not being myself as a father, like
Yeah.
not
No,
acting the way I want around my kids.
I understand.
And so I had to start just like working out like 4 times a day, just burning it out, like, because
Yeah, bro.
I needed. This may be something that only a jiu-jitsu person could understand, but I needed to feel the hurt.
Yeah.
And
Dude,
that's
I
a
have quarantabs. Like, I have abs from quarantine. I'm 37 years old. I've never had abs in my fucking life, and I have abs because of this. And I don't know if it's half stress or, like, every day I'm doing push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups. Like, I
yeah.
have to because I'm going nuts. Like, why wasn't I in shape before the fucking quarantine? I always had, like a regular bod, and now I'm, like, ripped to fucking death. It's pretty crazy.
All right. Well, that's I'm definitely not ripped, but I've certainly lost a lot of belly fat.
Keep her
And
going, bro. You got
I'm
this
going
shit.
to.
Fuck yeah.
One of the previous interviews that we did was with physical therapist Dr. James Escaloni.
Nice.
And he was talking about keeping our joints healthy, into our older age.
Yep.
And he said one main thing that we can do in our youth is control blood sugar, because excess blood sugar causes
Fuck that.
excess blood sugar causes the tendons and ligaments to lose suppleness.
He should have told me that a few fucking years ago. I eat a bag of candy every day. I'm a fucking candy fiend.
Well, depending upon like your training load and whatnot, that may not be a problem for you. But if you were sedentary, you could certainly say it would be.
Yeah.
So it does depend on like external factors, like how much your movement is, and because if you're burning the sugar off, then it's not excess blood sugar.
Yeah.
But one thing he said to do was like eat a pound of vegetables every day. He's like, and then it's really hard just to find the room to eat other shit.
That's true though.
So I've been doing that, and it's made a difference. And he was exactly right. Like, I don't ever feel hungry. I don't feel bad. I just, I feel really good. So
yeah, like I eat a ton of spinach and broccoli. That's my main sources of like veggies and shit.
Yeah.
So like I eat the same thing every day. I'm super boring. I cook a whole bunch of hamburger. I put fucking jalapenos in it, diced up onions, corn, fucking lentils, and then I just have that in a Tupperware container. And then a few times a day, I crack off some broccoli, rip up some spinach, throw it in a cup, throw the hamburger chunk on top of it, microwave it, toss some rice in, and boom. I do that like 3 times a day. And everybody always asks, like, why don't you get bored of it? I just put in more jalapenos, and it's fucking... I've been eating the same thing for years, and I just don't fucking care. Like, for me, food is just food. And don't get me wrong, I love food. I love all kinds of food. But, like, how much time can I possibly spend cooking? I'm not a chef. I don't want to learn new things. So I just cook the same thing because I can tolerate it. I eat it pretty much every day. I eat a fuck ton of eggs, too.
And all those sound like, when we're talking about the candy thing, that sounds to me like a very balanced,
but then
blood sugar regulating meal.
I'll stop at the store on the way to work, and I'll grab a bag of Hot Lips and a fucking Full Throttle energy drink and pound that bitch back on the ride.
Yeah.
So I'm still a kid in my head.
Full throttles might not be the best thing for your longevity, but that being said, like there's no absolute answer.
Well, I don't do heroin, so
I think that's good. Yeah.
Fuck, like some people drink Full Throttle and do heroin. I mean, I got them beat.
Wouldn't that go against each other? Like one's up?
I have no idea. I'm just kind of making shit up. I don't even know.
Well, I'm just trying to think if you really want to party, like why would you do something that goes against the thing that you're doing?
Okay, well here, when I used to party, I actually Full Throttle was my mix, but here it's not done. Do you drink?
Yeah.
Do you like candy or sugared stuff?
Not usually.
No, okay.
I like Reese cups, but
so what I would do, because I like dude, I was that guy at the bar with a beer in one hand and a Bacardi Breezer in the other. Like, I like the taste, right?
Yeah.
So I was drinking. It was Bacardi Lemon or Lemon, however you say. I don't know. I'm not, with that one. I'd put 2 shots of that in, and then 2 shots of Jones bubblegum. You know, the glass bottle, Jones bubblegum soda.
I'm not familiar,
but
I've
seen it.
It
I
sounds
thought it was
good.
American. Anyway,
it sounds good.
2 shots of Jones bubblegum soda, and then I'd top it off with Full Throttle energy drink, and it turned it green. So I was calling it the Incredible Hulk. And dude, it tasted like fucking straight candy. So I'd drink like fucking 10 of them, and then you're pretty fucked up.
Yeah, so in college, we had a drink that we called a black tooth grin, and that was just Crown and Coke 50-50. Like,
Yeah,
you just
no,
mix them even,
that
and
make you
then
grin.
you drink about 5 of those, and you wind up without a tooth in the morning. You don't know how you lost it.
I'm about 10 years sober-ish. Like, I'll still have a beer. Because here, I never had a problem. I just used to drink to go party and have fun. But then I just didn't want to. I just stopped wanting to drink. So I just didn't drink anything for about 4 or 5 years. And then I'll have like a beer while barbecuing or something. But I definitely don't drink like I used to.
Yeah, I never drank all that hard. At this
Oh, bro,
point,
I was a drinker.
yeah, I really can't say that I ever really was. I didn't even drink anything until I was like 25, and then
Oh, fuck.
later on, just like you, just a beer, barbecuing or something.
Yeah.
And I like good bourbon.
Oh,
So I
you're
have
one of those. You're a
yeah,
bourbon snob.
a little bit. Well, I'm from Kentucky, so
Oh,
it's
okay. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah.
yeah. But that doesn't mean that I have any issue with like Canadian whiskeys or Irish whiskeys. The only one that I don't like are the real peaty scotches because it just tastes like dirt to me. Like
I won't even drink scotch or bourbon or any of it. I just don't like the taste.
yeah.
I don't like hard liquor really at all. That Bacardi Lemon, I'd only drink it because it tasted like fucking candy mixed with that shit. Tequila, I pissed myself one time drinking tequila, so that's a no-go for me. Whiskey made me sick as fuck one time. I was like 10, and I know 10, dude. Listen, small fishing village town, like we
Ugh.
drink, right? I took a liter of Captain Morgan from my dad, and my buddy Steve took a liter of fucking Smirnoff from his dad, and they were clear liquids, so we just put them in the same 2-liter bottle, and we started fucking chugging. I drank about a liter of that hard liquor mix, and I was throwing up for fucking hours. And now the smell of Morgan still makes my mouth water. I'm 37.
I gotta be
27
honest.
years later.
How did you not die from that?
That's what I'm saying, bro. Like here, we drink.
I mean,
it's
at a 10-year-old is not very big.
No,
so,
dude.
like we're talking. I mean, that's like alcohol poisoning.
Yep. I'd say I threw it all up before I died.
Well, maybe that's why you got the name Zombie. Like,
No, bro.
You died at 10.
I don't know if it's the same with a lot of small towns, but here drinking was like the thing you'd take pride in. Like, how much can you drink?
Yeah, sure.
So that was me. And now I guess I got it all out when I was younger because I don't even miss it.
Yeah, I never had that alpha dog, like, I got to outdrink anybody or whatever.
I don't know if I did. I think I just liked the idea of going partying, the idea of going out to, whether it's a house party or a party in the woods, a kitchen party is what we do here in Cape Breton, or just going to the bar. But I just liked going out. I liked seeing people.
Sure. Well, that makes sense. I think it also makes sense that you're a jiu-jitsu guy because it's the community element. This is the other mental health side of it.
Yeah, bro.
The community element of what we have, especially in a good gym culture, and I know that ZombieProof Jiu-Jitsu is. It's hard to, it's impossible to duplicate, but it's hard to even explain to other people. To give an example, we have in my gym a lot of police officers and
Nice.
first responders, and we have quite a few females. Some of them are cops, that are just they've come in because referred to us. And then we have some lawyers, some doctors, and like MMA fighters.
It sounds like a perfect gym.
And all these people are vastly different in their life experience and what they're what they're trying to accomplish, and yet on the mat it's like slap and bump and brotherhood.
Bro.
And you cannot describe that to anyone who hasn't experienced it. But that's one of the reasons that I'm so big on like actually trying to get people to do jiu-jitsu. I have a friend who's a little bit older, and he has expressed some interest in it, and I just keep telling him like, go do it. Just go do it. You're gonna love it.
2 weeks before the quarantine, man, I had a 66-year-old man join. Fucking loved it. He was the first person to show up the next class, like his second class. First person there, last person to leave. Like, I almost had to push him out the door so I could drive home. Like, that's cool. Now, I hope he's back after quarantine, because this is going to fuck people up. Some people aren't going to want to go back into the close contact because of all the fear mongering. I thought it was going to be harder to get new students, but like just yesterday, I got a phone call from a dad who wants him and his 4-year-old to start once it starts up again, and that gave me a little bit of faith. And one of my private lessons is a doctor, and he messaged me and told me that he found another doctor that wants to join too. So if doctors and this dude is the head of the pain clinic, like if doctors are willing to come back, motherfucker, let's just call this bullshit over and just start. You know what I mean? Like, he's willing to come back right now, and he's working at the hospital. Clearly, it's not as bad as they're making it out to look, you know?
Yeah, I actually was talking to Lachlan Giles about this in the interview that I did with him, and he said, like, this virus is perfect in that it's not that bad most of the time, and then when it is bad, it's terrible. And he's like, so we're going to have situations where we're going to lose people and we're going to see friendships torn apart because of those differences. Like, one person sees, only the bad. Another person sees only it's not too bad. And there's no, it's black and white. There's no in between.
At the beginning of this, I shut down my business on the 12th, and it wasn't even mandated to be shut down till the 15th because I wanted to keep my family safe, right?
Sure.
I started wearing gloves in public, and I wasn't going places, and I was really but I'm also watching the fucking numbers, and I'm watching the facts, and I'm trying to keep up with it. And I mean, if the CDC is already starting to backtrack, they called this too early. So now I don't even care. I always wash my hands. So I didn't really have to do anything different, but I'm not wearing gloves anymore. I don't give a fuck about this whole social distancing thing. I'm ready to go back to work. So I've pulled a full 180, but based on facts. If more people in my island were dying, if more people in my province were dying, maybe it would be different. But when 50 of the 56 are all in the same already, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, sensitive population. You know what I mean? Like 50 of these people were already
within the COVID like danger zone.
Yes. So, and that means that the other 6, while I don't have the information on them, I know that they were just older people throughout the island who also everyone who died here had underlying health problems. Now, don't get me wrong. They still died, right? So I'm not saying that it's okay because they had underlying health problems, because it isn't, because I don't want them to die. But the fact is that they very easily could have caught the flu too, and the flu would have killed all of these people the exact same, because they were all already very at risk for any respiratory illness, right? So, and I'm not a fucking scientist, man. I'm just saying that what I've seen in the numbers doesn't reflect the amount of fear mongering that I'm seeing with the media.
So when for me, when I look at it, and look, nobody gives a shit what some, purple belt from Kentucky thinks.
Or a black belt from Cape Breton, really.
I think especially, I'll go with what Mike Mijas, like Mr. Jiu-Jitsu, when I interviewed him, he said that the real risk for a club is probably not in any of the members getting sick.
It'd be their family members.
It's someone peripheral who could in any way, even if it's not real, but just in some way peripherally track it back to the club. And then they're going to jump on, like Facebook and, Twitter.
I got it from the club.
Yeah. And he said, so, and I agree with this. There is risk, not necessarily to the club's members, but to the club itself from, getting like tarred and feathered, in social media, which is real, like social media gave me the ability to find you, but it also gives, like COVID Karen the ability to clobber, some of my friends for something that may have absolutely nothing to do with their club.
Yeah, COVID Karen can go fuck herself. You don't have to cut that either.
Well, we don't know anyone actually named Karen, so we'll leave that. But
My kid's babysitter's Karen, but she's nice. She's not one of the Karens.
She's not a COVID Karen.
She's not a Karen, no.
So we talked a lot about culture, and that's been a big element of this podcast. Is like everyone who has talked about what makes the best outcomes for the students, like what makes them learn the best. Right at the top of the list is culture. There's other things, but that starts things. And then every coach has seen, and every practitioner has seen people who had very accelerated learning or very decelerated learning.
Yeah.
And a lot of times coaches have learned from their students ways to improve their own learning. Like, one student may do something that is like accelerates them.
Yeah.
And like, to give an example, Matt Thornton of SBG said he had a student named John Diggins who just, he consistently let, things happen while he was in roles and would lose to people who he was better than. And then all of a sudden he just started like clobbering everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, for a time period, it got on my nerves because, it's like, I know how good he is, so I have to promote him, but he's not demonstrating it. And then he said it changed the way he thought about things and accelerated his own learning.
Yep.
So I wanted to ask you, from running the club, like, all the way back to when you were a white belt, running the grappling classes all the way through now as a black belt and teaching, what have you seen within your students and yourself that has accelerated the pace of learning or in some way increased longevity, either individually or of the group, in terms of like reducing injury and things like that you've learned from?
It's one of those weird things because there's so many different little things that I don't know if they'd qualify as a big thing, but like some of the stuff I can think of is like how to teach people specifically. Like different people learn different ways, but there's usually generalized teaching methods that work for everyone. And when you can find some of those generalized things, so one of my favorite things is the 3-time move on rule. So like if I go up to you and you're just fucking the omoplata, I'm like, okay, just turn your hand right like this. That's 1, right? And then you try. I'm like, okay, just lift your elbow a little bit. That's 2. And then you try. I'd be like, okay, maybe just put your knee on this angle. That's 3. That's it, right? You either get it or you don't. If you don't get it, I'm like, man, you're going to get it. Keep going. Now walk away, right? Because if you do more than that, they're either going to feel the special treatment, which isn't likely if they're getting shit on, or they're going to feel singled out, right? And you don't want either of those things to really happen, because if one person thinks special treatment is happening to someone else, they might get offended. If they feel like they're singled out, they'll get offended personally. So it's always for me 1, 2, or 3 things, and then I move on. And little things like you're always going to know who your best student is by who's still repping after you start walking around, right? Like if you say, okay, guys, rep this out, and then you start walking around and you're checking all the techniques, if you're looking off in this corner and then you turn around and 2 of the 3 groups are still repping, the one that isn't, both of those guys are going to suck, right? They're going to suck forever. And then out of that 2 group, whoever keeps going, it's always the people who rep till you move to the next technique. They'll get the most attention from me. And maybe it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? They get the most attention from their coach and they end up learning more because they're really repping, they're really trying, right? Those 2 rep and done type guys, they never get any attention from their coach. So if you're listening and you're a 2 rep and done guy, you're your own problem, right? Like that's one of the things that my students have taught me, because I've seen it over and over again. I've had guys go all the way up to brown belt. I've never had a black belt I've never had anybody get to black belt that's like that. But I had one guy go all the way up to brown belt, and he just could have been better. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He probably could have been a brown belt much earlier. He would have won more tournaments. He'd be better rolling in the club. But every time I'd look at him, 2 reps and he's done. It's like he feels he knows it or some shit. And trust me, he didn't. Right? So that's just a few of the little things. But there's so many things that you see with so many students that run through, right? Yeah, but overall, I like to think I've learned a lot, and it's cool too, because like what I want is my students to eventually kick my ass. So like now I got a few brown belts that give me shit and I love it. So like when I lose to my own students and I know like I taught you that, that's the shit that really gets me.
Well, I like that excitement, and I what you said there when you were talking about the students that do the reps. I think that so my instructor, he says show up.
Yeah.
Like talent, you know, that ends about blue belt. Like if you're talented, you'll get a blue belt pretty quick. But after that, like it's going to come down to technique.
See, I don't think I'm talented at jiu-jitsu. I really don't. I've said this since the beginning. I love jiu-jitsu. I have a fucking passion for jiu-jitsu. I geek out. Like I get fucking geeky. Like when I see new moves, man, I'm like erect. Like I'm that guy. Like dude, I love jiu-jitsu, but I'm not good at it. I've never been good at any sport I've ever played. I was a mediocre rugby player. I sucked at baseball. I sucked at hockey. I've never been good at any sport ever, but it's for most of it, I just didn't care. Right. Like my dad liked sports. I don't like sports, and so when I started doing jiu-jitsu, I wasn't better than anyone. I wasn't like the best guy on the mat. I just loved it. Right. I loved it so much that I wanted to show up. And then I wanted to do the reps, and then I wanted to learn more, and I wanted to ask questions. I wanted to watch that whole DVD, and then I wanted to watch another one. And I'm the one calling my friends, hey man, come on over, we'll roll in the fucking backyard, we'll throw a tarp out. Like I was that guy, right? So now everything that people say, like, man, you move so smooth or this or that, I'm still not that good at rolling, I don't think. Like I have visitors come whip my ass. Some of my students beat the shit out of me pretty regularly. But I love jiu-jitsu, and I'm going to keep showing up, and I'm going to keep giving everybody as hard of a roll as I'm capable of, because jiu-jitsu, man, I love it, right? And I think that's something that the old rollers could take away from, man. Like, you might never beat a 17-year-old again for the rest of your life, but if you give him a hard roll, that's good. You don't have to beat him. Like, I got one guy, he's 21 now. He just got his brown belt the other day, and he's been tapping me since blue belt. And I'll probably get him 1-for-1 most of the time. Sometimes I'll get the better of him. But he's good, and he's athletic, and he's fast, and he's training hard. And, like he's so much younger than me. I can't heal the way he's healing. I can't keep up with him when he's scrambling and shit. So if I give him a hard roll and neither of us win, or if I give him a hard roll and just he wins once, I'm still like, that was good, because that's where my mentality is now. I don't have to be a winner. I just want to make sure that I'm giving everyone I roll with my best roll.
Going back to, some of the other podcasts that we've done, the urge to just win seems to be an inhibitor of learning.
Oh yeah, it's fucking terrible. And I try to get rid of that right away in my students.
Yeah, for me, I just and look, I'm not great in any way. So all I'm saying is speaking from previous experience. When I came in, I sucked so bad that I couldn't have like a will to win. You know what I mean? Like there was no like, okay, I'm going to be a tough guy today. No, I was going to get fucking clobbered. Yeah. And I had to just be okay with it.
That's good though.
So very early on, just by, like just getting clubbed like a baby seal all the time, I didn't have a choice but to be okay with losing. Like
now you're a purple belt. You could probably beat like fucking 95% of the world's population with your bare hands.
Well, I like to think that, all these bitches need to be, paying attention. Like
I'm telling you, man, like you snicker about it, but realistically, in a fair fight and in a dirty fight, you would probably manhandle / murder 95% of the people out there.
Realistically, though, I've actually only been in a fight in my life with my brother. And
most people will never be in a fight, though.
He beat the shit out of me. Like,
dude, I quit drinking. My last fight was at a bar, and since I quit drinking, I don't fight no more. It's funny how that works, eh?
Was that bar called the Arm Bar by chance?
Nah, the Arm Bar. You said you were going to do it every 10 minutes, motherfucker. It's been
I'm a little late.
An hour. You slacked the fuck off.
You started talking about pandemics and shit. I couldn't just be like, hey, stop. Armbar.
So you
Armbar.
like the way I sound, right? So you just kept listening. You can't make fun. You can't have it two ways, bro.
I can make fun of your accent because I know I got one too. So
You
you can pick.
fucking sure, dude. You
You
definitely got an accent.
you can pick
Down
on
in
my shit. It ain't
Kentucky,
gonna hurt my feelings.
I'm gonna go down Kentucky, get some of that Kentucky bourbon. I don't know.
Well,
That's not what you sounded like. My accent's horrible.
yeah, it's a little weak. I don't think I can say Ernberg like you
You
either.
can. You definitely can.
That being said, we when we're talking about these ideas of things that accelerate learning, you have to have a desire to win, but it has to be. And this is not my take on this. This is what I've learned from these interviews. You have to have a will to win because that gives you a desire to show up and improve.
Mm-hmm.
But that desire to win has to be
manageable by your ego.
Well, it has to be beaten by your desire to get better.
Yep.
So if you're willing to sacrifice getting better, like let's say right out of the gate, you're a biggish guy and you get a decent pass and you get good at side control and the
side
Americana.
Control and stall. Yeah, I know those guys. I have a few of those guys.
So that you will be able to demonstrate acumen and win a whole lot of your rounds with that. But by doing that same thing over and over and over again, you are actually inhibiting your ability to learn and be better at jiu-jitsu, so to speak.
Here's my thing for that. As a coach, I do a few things that it comes down to like one or two things. Are you a competitor or are you not? And if you're an older guy, you can still be a competitor because now they have master's classes and shit. And I encourage it. I encourage competition at all levels. I still compete whenever I can, whenever I'm healthy. But here's what I do. So I give my guys a competition game plan, right? So I'll take my boy Adam. He's just got his blue belt recently, but when he started as a white belt, he had these long, ugly, gangly ass arms, right? So I said, bro, you're gonna study guillotines. You're gonna study a lot of them. You're gonna look at the guillotines on YouTube. You're gonna look at them on fucking Instagram. I want you searching out guys who do guillotines, and I want you repping guillotines as much as you can. And when you're rolling, I want you only going for guillotines. He put me to sleep with a Darce as a white belt. Put me straight to fucking sleep, right? He went and he won his first 3 tournaments with guillotine, every match with guillotine. And can he demonstrate a perfect armbar? Probably not. You know what I mean? Does he know how to do a loop choke? Probably not. But will he ever quit jiu-jitsu? Nah, man. He slept a black belt. He fucking I let him get too deep and he put me straight to sleep like fucking oat. A white belt put me to sleep. He won his first fucking tournament. He won his second tournament. He won his third tournament. All his matches by guillotine. That motherfucker's never leaving my club. Ever. So here's where that reinforces longevity. If Adam does 10 years of jiu-jitsu, now he loves guillotines. He'll always be good at guillotines. That motherfucker has a brown belt guillotine. By the time he's a black belt, he'll have black belt guillotine, but he'll also have black belt armbar. And he'll also have black belt loop choke because he's doing jiu-jitsu, right? So his competition game plan is to reinforce his love for jiu-jitsu. But then in the club, it's not just about that. Like when he's in the club, it's about lab work. It's about getting on your back and fucking escaping side mount, escaping mount. So we do different things where some rolls, the whole roll is rock, paper, scissors. And then you choose, is the person on your back, are they in side mount or are they in mount? And then you have to escape, right? Because that's fucking real, right? And if you are so good at guillotines that you never get side mounted, when you get into a tournament and that guy that's really good at getting out of guillotine side mounts you, you're losing that tournament, right? So we can't, like, we have to make sure that everything goes back to itself. But what I'm looking at is if you don't teach somebody a competition game plan at the beginning and they do their first tournament and they get butt fucked, they're probably not going to stay with jiu-jitsu. So they're not going to make it to that 10 years, right? So if they don't even make it to the 10 years, they're not going to have 10 years worth of knowledge. But if you get this guy winning tournaments because you taught him the berimbolo, you're reinforcing the fact that someday he's going to be a black belt with full level skills. The Meow brothers could only do barambolos, right? Well, now they're doing everything because
Mm-hmm.
they kept winning. They kept going. They stayed doing jujitsu. These one-trick ponies, people shit on them. I'm trying to teach my guys to be one-trick ponies because by the time you're a blue belt, you're winning all your matches with that one trick. You get to purple belt, you know purple belt level shit. You could fucking move your trick to something else. By the time you're a brown belt, you have a black belt one game, but then everything else is brown belt level. That's a good thing, right? So that's my biggest accelerated learning tool that I use with my students if I know they want to be competitors. I give them that competition game plan. So ZombieProof itself has a basic competition game plan that I teach absolutely everybody. And then when I see what you're good at, I'm like Russia. This is what you're doing now, right? Like Adam didn't choose guillotines. I said, motherfucker, you're guillotining. And when you're good at guillotines, you can learn darces. Don't you fucking dare darce till you're good at guillotines. That's that's how I am as a coach. And it isn't always the nicest way, but Adam fucking loves me. He's never leaving. You know what I mean? And I
I
got all
do.
kinds of students that are just like that. They have their game. Like Keenan, I'm not the best leg locker at ZombieProof. So ZombieProof, people know us for leg locks. I'm a blue belt leg locker, man. You get guys like Craig Jones, fucking those boys are black belts. Me, I'm a blue belt leg locker, but I love leg locks. I have a passion for leg locks. My boy Keenan, his name's Matt, but he looked like Keenan, and we already had a Matt, so I called him Keenan. So I know I give nicknames and shit too. So my boy Keenan beats me leg locks 2-1 because I told him at the beginning, I want you to study Eddie Cummings' game, watch Eddie Cummings, figure out how he plays. So Keenan has a guard game, heel hook game. So Keenan plays butterfly guard, half guard, and all like the Craig Jones shit. Like he's really good at leg locking, where my leg locks are all passing. So I watched like Tone and Nicky Ryan, where I'm trying to pass into leg locks. So he's a better leg locker than I am. Do I care? Not even a fucking little bit. Right? Like for me, losing is part of getting better. Like that's what I think you need. If you're not losing, you're also not thinking about how you lost. If you're not thinking about how you lost, you're not formulating ways to get better. So
Mm-hmm.
just last week rolling with Drake, and Drake is my 21-year-old scrambling motherfucker who's a brown belt. So he kept passing my guard to the right side, to the right side, to the right side. And I'm playing butterfly because I'm trying to get better at butterfly specifically versus his game because he's a scramble speed passer. So as he kept passing to the side, I just sat on my hip. Like I literally laid down like a French girl off Titanic and started blocking his shin. And he got confused. And I ended up picking off single legs on him 3 times in a row because he couldn't just pass to the side because I was basically laid out waiting for his leg to come close. You know what I mean? And like that's lab work to me because he very easily could have just jumped to the other side. But I stumped him, and we have to keep going forward on this little game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I'm rambling and
No, that's great. What
we're
you
running out of time, so ask
uh,
me some questions.
well, that what you just described there, um, talking about the competition game and what you do for your competitors, and making that a driver for keeping someone in the sport.
Yeah, bro.
That's a fascinating point, but you're offsetting it with positional and situational work where they have to get the other things that they need. You're not
Yeah.
just saying like, okay, you just keep doing guillotines until you're
No.
blue in the face. You're still giving them the stimuli outside to get better at all
My
the other
goal is
things.
at the end of the day, when they're at that top level, they have all the top level knowledge, but they had a smoother ladder upwards because it was fucking covered in gold medals.
Yeah, no, I can see very much how that would drive someone's desire to continue because like that confidence and that excitement
Yeah.
just
A lot
it
of the
makes
guys
perfect
that
sense.
started with me in my garage are still with me.
Hmm.
And that I think that's a testament, like not to humble brag or anything, but that's a testament to my coaching. Like a lot of the guys that started when I was teaching as a blue belt, we still talk every day. We're still friends. They still come to class. They're still my team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that comes from culture too, where you're making the environment a place where people are going to be safe and they know that it's a positive experience. But I
Yeah,
really
bro.
like and I haven't heard uh, that idea before about driving student retention through giving someone a game. Like
Yeah, man.
that's a fascinating idea, and one that I'm going to have to think about for myself.
Let's talk afterwards, man. I'll hook you up with something.
All right.
I'm pretty good at coming up with game plans on the fly. I'll get something for you.
All right. So, really, we've talked about everything. I have a small agenda of about 5 questions, that I kind of want to go over, and we've kind of talked about everything. I really don't see anything else, that we need to go over, because even though we haven't talked about anything, dead on, we've covered everything, peripheral.
Perfect, man.
So
I'm happy we finally made this work after a month of cat and mouse.
Well, yeah, the weather up there in was it Cape Breton?
Yeah.
Hasn't been too friendly for you.
Well, fuck. I'm just glad that you actually seen the weather patterns and knew I wasn't just fucking blowing you off. Snowstorm after snowstorm, and then fucking spring cleaning, and then this bullshit coronavirus. Fuck, bro.
So, for my fellow old rollers who, maybe live under a rock and have never heard of you, or
tell them to fire me a message. Well, I guess I'm telling them. Fire me a message, man. I make posts on Instagram once a month. Message me anytime. Talk about jiu-jitsu. And, I'd be willing to talk about game plans and shit with you. I can usually find time. Like, when I make that post, I get about 500 messages, and I answer every fucking one of them.
I usually send you one every single time, actually.
Bro, I like it. Have I ever not messaged?
Nope. You've always done it. It's funny too.
That's the culture, man. That's the culture. I want everyone who does jiu-jitsu to have someone like me. And I'm not another humble brag. I'm trying to be who I wish I had when I was coming up.
Mm-hmm. Well, I personally think you're doing a great job, because in my particular scenario, I'm not doing jiu-jitsu kind of in a vacuum. I have several schools actually that I could choose from,
awesome,
in my local area.
I'm jealous.
That being said, I've learned a lot from you.
Thank you, bro.
The things that you put out. Oh yeah. So here's one for the old rollers, and this is a straight up shill, and I'm gonna shill it. Back in the day when you put out the Tozi Pass video.
Oh, bro, yes. You do it?
Every fucking time. Okay, so here's the thing. So for my old rollers, I will put a link to YouTube in the YouTube, and I'll put it in the podcast feeds too, to Zombie's Tozi Pass instructional.
I murder motherfuckers with that Tozi Pass.
So here's the thing. When I show somebody in the gym who's fairly new, when I teach it to them, because I usually will do it, especially if I'll preface it with, hey, I'm about to do something to you that's a little bit mean.
You might unfriend me.
It's okay to tap if it's too much.
Yep.
But once I do it, I'll show it to you. And then we'll go through it, right? Because I'll be in their closed guard. I'll let them, I'll get the underhook, and then, it's pretty much on.
Welcome to the end.
But I always tell them that you can't do it to anybody who is the same belt level as you, who's not at least 20 pounds bigger. And you can't do it to anybody who's only one belt above you that's smaller. So let's say you're a white belt, you can't do it to a little bitty blue belt.
No, that's smart.
You can do it to a little bitty purple belt, but not a little bitty. So if you get the blue belt, you can do it to a little bitty brown belt, but not a little bitty purple belt. So I always give them like a set of parameters, just because it's
once you crank that neck and start fucking turning those hips, man, people fucking tap right there.
I agree. And you gotta be kind of slow and deliberate with it.
Yep.
And then, but I have taken that. So I got that from that video when I was a white belt. Nice. And so that was like 3.5, 4 years ago. And I still do it. When somebody puts me in the closed guard,
they're done.
I will try one nice way of getting out it, and then
I don't even give them that. If you put me in the closed guard, I'm gonna try to break your spine.
Well, I do it just because I want to have something else, just in case that doesn't work. But I'm always like, if whatever this nice thing I'm trying ain't gonna work, then it's Tozi City, and my apologies. This was for the zombie.
Yep. And when I first seen that, it was actually Tozi, like Eduardo Tozi, that was teaching, and he had 3 videos. And the first one was the Tozi Pass, where you control the bicep. The second one was where you backstep and push down the leg. And the third one was the big hip switch. And I think I've made videos for all three of them now because I can't find his videos anymore. But I posted one of those videos on Instagram and fucking Tozi himself followed me. And it's still pretty mind blowing because he taught me the moves. That's why I call them the Tozi passes, right?
Well, that's really awesome. So for my old rollers, like definitely look into the Tozi, but I will just pass this along. My rule for myself is I don't do it to anybody that's at my same belt level who's any smaller than me. And if you're a big guy, then I'll go ahead and do it if you're my belt level. If you're below me, I almost won't do it at all.
Yeah.
Just because.
And you usually don't need to. Like if they're smaller, if you're capable of doing the Tozi, you could probably pop out with a head arm.
Yeah, so I just tell them if it's somebody that I'm going to introduce it to them, then I will say, hey, I'm going to do something a little bit mean, but I want you to see it and know it exists. And then they're like, okay. And I'm like, it's okay to tap the pressure if there's nothing wrong with it. And then like inevitably the first time they're like, good God, what was that?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so they can reach out to you, Kent Peters on Facebook. What's your Instagram?
The Kent Peters.
The Kent Peters. There might be another one, but this is the one.
Yep, that's the main one that I hit back on. Like I have a fuck ton of Instagram actually. I'm Don't Hit Jiu-Jitsu. I'm Heel Hook Happiness. I'm Supernatural Survival Gear. I'm No Gi No Problems. I'm fucking ZombieProof BJJ. I have like 4 10K plus accounts. I got YouTube and dude, I got 76,000 people on fucking TikTok. Like, I'm just a social media whore.
Yeah. What was your one dumbass TikTok that was
cutting
like
open a
playing with the
bale
hay bale?
of hay, bro? Cutting open a fucking bale of hay. It has 27.3 million views.
Oh, that's the best.
It's fucking stupid. I spent 10 years of my life making jiu-jitsu videos. I cut open one goddamn bale of hay and I'm famous. It's fucking junk.
Yeah, that's nice. TikTok. All right. So, all that being said, is there anything else? Normally, with some of our folks, we do a thing. It's like Reddit, like where we do upvotes, like 3 up, 3 down. What are 3 things that you've done in your training that have made your increased your longevity or made you better over time? And then 3 things that you wish you hadn't done. But if you're running out of time, we don't have to do that because
let's do it and then we'll call her quits.
Okay.
All right. So what is it again?
So 3 up, 3 down.
Okay.
3 things that you have done in your training that have accelerated either your learning or increased your longevity, made you better or better for longer. Okay. And then 3 things that you did that you wish you hadn't. You know what I mean? Like that took from that.
Yep. All right. So taking notes for sure. I note take on everything. I write down everything. I could break taking notes into 3 things, but I'll say note taking is 1. And if you have any questions on that, fire me, messages. Breaking down matches, personally for myself, breaking down matches is where I learn a lot of stuff. And then watching a fuck ton of DVDs. Like I've absorbed as much DVDs as I possibly could. 3 things that have fucked me up. I don't stretch at all. I used to lift too heavy of weights and I destroyed my back and now I got 3 bulging discs. And number 3, I have absolutely no understanding of recovery and recovery methods. And I hear everybody talk about recovery, and it's something that I still need to start looking into at 37. So lately I've been reaching out to people. I have literally no recovery plans. I roll and then I fucking roll.
Well, let's talk about that after the show because I actually am really... first off, big on recovery, but secondly, I have some resources that I've used that I can pass along to you. That
send it all to me.
Absolutely. So with that, we got the 3 up, 3 down. I think we can pause it here.
Awesome, bro.